This is Poyoni Glitter for
Of VRChat shaders. Or Comic Sans. Probably a better analogy.
It's not the Comic Sans. It's like the area.
Oh, Xin.
That's it when I wanted to.
Greetings, friend. Good to see you.
Greetings. Good to see you as well, Mr.
Is it
True.
Flat planes
Even
As long as it's not
papyrus
purple
has
Comic
its
Sans.
uses.
arranged into a
You're sitting very explicitly.
cross-section, three-dimensional
the
entity
Avatar logo?
of
Yeah,
bipedal nature.
I've lost some
I
weight.
mean, yeah, I didn't say
Let
that
me
you
put
were
on the fat suit.
Or something?
Oh. Uh-oh. It's loading.
Oh, yeah, sitting down as well.
Oh, I see. Hello, Nick.
Why is this thingy not going away?
Hello, Nick's friend. If
There we go.
I assume you can hear us. Hi.
Greetings, Nick, friend.
Seasoned greetings.
Welcome
my
to the
friend.
rendezvous.
Glad
It's
to
an
be
honor
here.
to have you.
Okay, Sheen. Since no one's listening, do you want to do like a little intro, or do you want me to handle it all?
What was that?
See,
I'm prepared for either.
So what are you saying?
I'll welcome everyone and
Sure.
say hello, if that's all right. Would you like me to tell them to go to the prep room?
I
What
lost
would you
track of
prefer?
my life a long time ago.
Yes. Let's head to the prep room now.
Right.
Right behind you.
Please. Follow.
Welcome, travelers.
Me.
At this time, make your way to the room that is of prepping. The room for preps. The preppiest room.
Starting to sound like Crunk. Ah, yes, the room. The prep room. The room for prepping. The preparation room for prep.
There's a bit of nostalgia of being back here.
I actually have never been here so often that I can be nostalgic. I just join every few months for one tour and find it
What are you
fun.
doing back there?
And then
The middle is here.
4 a.m. for me. If you think the Wanderers event's happening late for me, this is even fucking later.
I do get
Yeah,
lazy
just there.
and forget.
That's good.
What? It was 4, not 3? Am I crazy?
It's like halfway down.
I was busy in the room.
Oh, okay.
Rubber room.
Okay, that's good. Okay, we're good.
Rubber room with these rats. Rats made me crazy. Crazy. I was crazy once. Anyway.
That's how you been, Al.
Dare you try and shoot me now? I'm more prepared for that shit.
Oh, fuck. I guess I have no other choice. I need to use mask.
Sheen, test.
Oh god, he has a gun. Holy crap.
Stop trying to shoot me and shoot me.
Uh-oh. Sheen has perished.
He's expecting it, though. It'd be best to test it when he's least expecting it.
He crashed.
There's a
Give me 1 second
possibility
then.
he goes to the shield, which is, connections.
That's fine. We can wait.
Hey, how are you doing? How are you doing today?
What?
Hello. Hello. I haven't figured it out.
Was it a PC crash? What happened this time?
Not that stupid.
Dunno.
You do admit what you
I
are.
think it's just the game.
That's good. Oh, you have a little ball floating up there. I'm gonna take this ball. In Night City, you can become.
Wake up, samurai.
Autumn!
We got a
Please
city
wake
to
up,
burn.
Samurai. You've been asleep for a long time.
Why do you come?
Howdy, Fessa.
Nein.
Ja,
Kein Bock.
bitte.
There we go.
Du hast wohl geglaubt, dass du mich übers Ohr hauen kannst, aber dem ist nicht so.
Alright, you need to slow it down, mister. My
10,
grammar's not that robust.
9,
Yeah, see, if you're trying to
8,
fucking mess with somebody who's originally
7,
speaking German as his mother
6,
Yeah, I
tongue,
know, that's why I
that is
said
kinda-
it.
5,
Guys,
4,
What?
3,
Oh,
2, 1. It seems you've met with an uncertain fate. You find yourself at an interdimensional crossroads, a rendezvous of travelers between worlds. My name is Xin. I am a highly metastasized infomorphic mimetic meme complex, and one of the tour guides of VRTravellers. Welcome to the rendezvous, our point of contact to the narrative domain. It has been a while, my friends. Thank you for waiting and coming back to see us again. As you all know, we are heavy in development of projects. But we do wish to perform at least one event per month while we work behind the scenes. For those of you that are new here, I believe I see possibly just one new face. We create story-based tours, and those tours are the events we usually run on Saturday nights, US time. But tonight is different. Tonight, although a story event is not interactive, and therefore is not a tour, but we do want to give you something. So, this is it. If you will excuse me, it's been a while since I've advented from the Unus Mundus. My communication skills with mortals has waned. 10,000 apologies. Well then, mortals, before I make more of a cube of myself, I will pass the floor over to the greatest gem that has ever traded. Yes. My friends, please put your hands together for the great Treijim, the tour guide.
The floor is mine. The floor is lava. My friends, tonight, as you may have noticed, I'm out of character, and I have something very special for you all. But I'm not going to do any explaining here. I'm going to take us directly to tonight's destination, just a world where I can play music for you all. Please give me a moment to prepare the portal. Now, my friends, I'm going to try a Group Plus portal, which means please make sure you're not green or blue, because your friends will be able to join us otherwise. But feel free to go orange, and if someone is trying to get in, they can get in, or if they're a member of the group, they can just join it directly. Now, here is our portal. Please wait for me on the other side. Here we are. We'll go straight ahead. Easy to find. will be around this screen. Make yourselves comfortable anywhere in this area. There's only 16 or so of us, so we should all fit.
Yeah, true.
It should be nice and cozy. Just behind me, friends. Just in here. Gather around, find a seat. Straight behind me, friends. Alright, Rin, who are we waiting for? There's Sheen. Is that the last one? Did we have 16? You're the last one through. Alright, just behind me, friends. Around the couches. Make yourselves comfortable. We should all fit in here. Now, I'm going to be playing music through this, just for ambience. Feel free to turn your world music on and set it to a comfortable level once I drop. Oh, someone needs to pass permission to me. Pack Lover, can you please come here?
It happened again.
And so is you. Can you pass it to me, or do you just have to unlock it?
Kill him right now. Kill him.
Usually
Thank you. Please, nobody touch the controls here. If you do, I will write your name on my list.
Oh no.
I'm on Treijim's list. I was the first one.
No, it's not a good list. Okay, before I put music in though, let me explain what's going on. So, as many of you know, I retired from performing last year. However, reading is not performing. Of the many projects I have been working on since, one of them is a brand new fictional world. This setting is called the Astafall Chronicles, and after tonight's story, I'll be launching the wiki for it. But this wiki is not your usual wiki for a fictional world. Your usual wiki has articles that explain places, people, objects, concepts, but the Astafall Chronicles has chronicles. Its contents are stories told by those who traveled the world, set on a path to explore, whether intentionally or incidentally, and each story is divided into chapters, each chapter centered on a specific region or culture within the overall journey. It all makes sense as we go. This means all the information that anyone will ever have about the Astafall Chronicles world is from the direct point of view of the few inhabitants who write about it. As such, this is a world brimming with mystery and unknowns, and it is not your typical fantasy setting either. There are no castles. There is no steel, no plate armor, no widespread literacy or formal education, no intricate bureaucracies, no gunpowder or seafaring ships or printed books or flowers as you know them. My friends, this setting does not have a moon. It does not have a sun. By now, you may have many questions about this strange world. That's good. That's perfect. Perhaps after tonight's tale, you'll have some answers. But more likely, and hopefully, you'll just have more questions. My friends, the time has come for us to embark and immerse ourselves in tonight's tale. Once the video loads, please set your world music to a comfortable background level. Chapter 1. Galan. I am Jirai. My brother is Ulo. We were raised in a village upstream from the earthen city of Galan, 10 days along the Pilgrim's Way. Our pater raised and traded ubor, hardy mounts and beasts of burden, with the Kaarhean nomads that came from the deep desert. And our mana crafted clay figurines of the goal pater that she would offer to pilgrims in exchange for goods. By day, my younger brother Ulo would always help Mana by gathering clay from the banks of the Telsanan in a small basket he wove himself, while I would help Pater with the ubor. I watched how he cared for the herd, learning their needs, knowing what every snort, whinny, and bellow meant. I watched how he negotiated with the heavily garbed Kaarhean nomads, never making eye contact, always apologetic when they asked for too much. Every night we would eat roots, beans, and river oats, sometimes roasted viper, or, if we were especially blessed, salt shrimp. In the evenings, my brother and I would walk to the edge of the salt desert and look for the feathers of burrowing owls or eggs of Carneau lizards that nested in the mud-brick ruins. Pilgrims always liked those, and they often exchanged tales of the dark age before the Astafall, when the goal pater carved the great temple into the mountainside to await the return of the light. Stories of horned warriors across the vile sea, legends of a people who drink earth blood and dwelled in a remote haven high in the Duskwood Mountains. Their words, their tales would ensnare our imaginations for hours on end, if Mana allowed. Sometimes we would even catch glimpses of herds of wild bashba, their massive silhouettes and long curling necks dipping up and down as their low, mournful cries sent shivers through me. I will always look back on these times with fondness, for I write this account a very long way from the place I call home. Allow me to explain. When I was 10 and 5, a particular nomad appeared. He arrived with 7 more, all on ubor back, all covered head to toe in salt-colored garb. Some carried spears, while 2 bore bronze swords. Their leader rode forth and addressed my pater in the tongue I was still learning. I do not know what was said. His vocabulary felt ancient. At that moment, I saw something I had never seen before. My pater reached back to protect me as the light of the distant Astafall glinted off a sharpened bronze edge. A moment later, my pater was murdered. The next thing I remember, I was on my back, bleeding, clutching the shell knife my pater had given me. My mana, my brother Ulo, and I were all taken as slaves, and I never saw my home again. Chapter 2. Kaarheans. Our time with the Kaarheans is foggy, marred by pain and confusion as my wound festered under the neglectful watch of the Kaarheans. It was Ulo's presence that anchored me. One evening, Ulo came quietly to my side and squeezed my hand. He said nothing. No words were needed. He told me later that he squeezed my hand each time he saw my face become clouded. The whole ordeal felt like a dream to me, and it is a strange feeling to be looked after by my younger brother. On the 5th day, Ulo told me that a different group of Kaarheans had taken Mana away. We never saw her again. But the Golparter blessed my brother and I to remain together. I remember one particular evening at an oasis once I was able to walk. A wild lone Bashpa wandered near to the water, and the Kaarheans gathered together to move their ubor so the creatures would not aggravate one another. Ulor and I took this opportunity to go to the water's edge under the watchful eye of the looming Bashpa, and there we found clay. With a prayer to the Golparter, we made figurines from balls of clay with our bare hands and wrapped them in the loose hangings of our clothes to dry. As we feared, one of the Kaarheans found mine while tending my wound, but I claimed it was just a lump of clay with my broken Peredea. He believed me. Whenever we could, Ulu and I would pray that someone had taken our Pater's body to the Golparter to be joined back with the others, and every night we prayed that our Mana was still alive. On the 6th day, we were caught in a sandstorm that blotted out the Astafall's light. It was harrowing. The wind whipped sand into a frenzy, and it felt like 1,000 tiny needles upon my skin. I knew that if I opened my eyes, I would lose them. So we stayed in place, and that night the Kaarheans set up a more sufficient camp beside a mountainous mesa. In truth, we camped at the base of the scree, since the slope of rocks and dust leading up to the mesa looked like a day's hike in and of itself. I remember looking up at the mesa through blurry eyes and becoming fixated upon a particular jut of rock. It must have been a feature of incredible size, yet I couldn't help but marvel at how much it resembled a person. Not a regular person, mind you. A person with exaggerated features, weathered almost beyond recognition, as though some poor ancient souls were put to work carving the likeness of their god into this red stone, only to have it become completely unrecognizable to people of later times. When I asked Ulo about it, he told me I was becoming delirious again. But I swore that I remembered tales. Those tales of horned people wielding thunder and glass in distant lands. But Ulo would have none of it. He was probably right. After countless days, we came to a settlement of great woven huts at another oasis. There were many Kaarheans living here, trading and working, all dressed in loose layers of salt-colored garb, and Ubor wandered freely. I wondered how many of these Ubor had come from Epata. My wound was now a scar, and we were sold to a man with a rugged crop of thorny vegetables, and put to work the next day. My brother did well, being used to digging up clay from the riverbank, but I fared poorly. My hands always bled, my body ached from hunching and crouching all day. The Astafall seemed the same size as it did from our home, and it was on our right while we crossed the desert, so I knew that we had travelled round ways to get here. We worked on this farm until the end of harvest, and once the season changed, we were sold again. Ulo and I practiced their language with one of the other slaves, hoping we would one day be able to find the means to find our Mana and return home. But this plan did not last long. After being sold 3 more times, travelling ever deeper into Kaarheans, we eventually came to be part of a caravan guard. My brother and I were handed spears and put under the charge of a very strict old man named Feshar, who would strike us with the blunt of his spear if we faltered. We quickly learned that Feshar wanted us to be very aggressive, never letting anyone near the merchant, yelling at people to move out of the way. It is the opposite to how the Galan act. Other slaves would come and go from our group, and after 2 years, it was just Feshar, Ulo, and myself. Feshar said he became unhappy with other slaves he tried. They always lacked the bond that Ulo and I had, working together in unison as brothers. He even began to treat us more like his own sons, offering our favorite meals if we worked hard, and scolding and striking us if we made mistakes, but he would always explain exactly what we did wrong. Of all the Kaarheans, the only one I mourn is Feshar, for he was killed by bandits, and our Kaarhean enslavement thus ended. Chapter 3. Karazene. The bandits who attacked the caravan were obviously not Kaarhean, so I dropped my spear, and Ulo did the same. 2 of the bandits searched the caravan for goods, while their leader, a tall man wearing furs and red beads and riding an ubor, waved a length of red string before our faces. Confused, I did not react, and Ulo did as I did. He issued a command, and we were made to walk with them, with empty yet unbound hands. It was on this uphill trek that I saw something I'd never heard before. I had heard tales from merchants about the restless dead, but I never thought I would see one. Ulo pointed it out first, a man on all fours bounding across the rocky scrub toward us. The bandits loosed arrows at it, but it did not falter. The leader's ubor reared and bellowed. My instincts took over, and I grabbed its reins before the rider was thrown off. Standing so close to the beast, I took hold of a javelin and threw it at the wild man, and with a sudden gasp he crumpled into a heap. The leader gave me a lingering look, before leaving a length of red string on the restless dead's motionless body. It was only then that I saw their green eyes for the first time, and we moved along. Overall, we were not with the Karazene for long. Their tongue and customs were very different from both Kaarheans and our homeland, and they seemed disinterested in putting us to labor or even teaching us their language. The leader of this group, apparently some sort of shaman, took a liking to Ulo and I and had us follow them as they went from village to village. He made us wait outside homes while he performed his rituals indoors, but sometimes we saw him shake red string before the faces of others or blow red dust at them. Nobody ever reacted to it. To this day, I'm unsure of the significance of these actions, but it seems connected to the restless dead. I asked him that very question one night by a campfire. He just gave me a length of red string and told me to keep it in my pocket. He smiled strangely when I did, and in this pause a chilling sound travelled down to us from the nearby hills, a mix between a deep growl and a whistle, and we never spoke about the red string again. For a few brief moments one night I suspected whether the red string and red dust were connected to the reddish-brown hair that all Karazene seemed to possess, but soon thought better of it. Ulo and I stayed with them for a few weeks, until the weather became cold. Colder than anything we had felt before, a coldness which reached my bones that I didn't even think was possible. We complained about it at length, for they would not lend us their fur coats. The Astafall was the smallest I had ever seen, only about 2/3 the height it was from home. So the shaman took us on a long downhill journey. We descended from the highlands, crossed a great grassland over a term, and eventually came to the sea. Chapter 4. Dashphadea. We had never seen the sea before this moment. I was disappointed. To me it looked like a rippling salt desert of a darker hue, but Ulo was excited to get a closer look. We could hear its muffled thundering, comparable to the sound of the Astafall, echoing across a vast marshland between us and the shore. As we descended to cross the marsh, a heavy mist rolled in. The very air itself was wet, and we were soon swarmed, harassed by groups of flying insects, and every tree and giant fern that came from the mist made the Ubor nervous. As we followed a rough path through the marsh, wading through waters that reached above our knees, a sudden ripple alerted us to an unseen danger. The murk, a glistening, clacking creature, longer than 2 men laid end to end, surged forward. The Karazene recoiled, holding forth spears and raising shields. Ulo and I froze. The creature dove for the Ubor, which went into a frenzy, and one of the spears glanced off the creature's segmented armor and tore the Ubor's side open. It fell with an awful bellow. We were forced to abandon the beast to the creature and hurried away as it feasted, its presence leaving a lingering sense of dread. By the following evening, we came to a coastal Dashphadean town called Dashphadea. We soon discovered their language was Peredea, like Kaarheans, so we could speak with the locals to some degree. The town itself was built across a river and had many canals running through it. The shaman took us to the central marketplace, filled with strange wooden carvings, roasted bugs and eels, and jars of oil. He went inside a building, and then left, without so much as looking at us. We never saw him or his men again. A Dashphadean soldier emerged from the building. Apparently, Ulo and I were now mercenaries. After a brief drill to test our skills, we were assigned to a scouting unit. Most of the other mercenaries were foreign as well. Some looked Galaner like us, some looked Dashphadean with blue eyes, but many had a likeness I had never seen before. One youth my age had hair red as fire. Another man was at least 3 hands taller than the tallest person I had ever seen. And apparently, we were all expendable in the eyes of the commander, and we were to travel astwards, despite the Astafall often obscured by fog, along the coast to help deal with Naphthean raids. The first raiders we saw were routed by Dashphadean defenders, and we helped capture fleeing soldiers as slaves. Ulo and I were kept together, as our captain recognized how well we worked as a pair. We proved ourselves over the coming months, as the raids began to quieten. I had become quite adept at steering canoes, and Ulu developed an uncanny ability to hide among tall reeds. We soon ended up in a town called Karal, and we were told we could find our own way to earn a living while waiting for new orders. It was during this downtime that I learned about their religion. Dashphadeans worship a great undulating god-beast called Ataulajid, who dwells in a huge cave near the capital city of Dehen. Whenever someone is dying, they are taken to this cave, and they must descend into darkness alone. The dying must find a loosened scale of the god-beast and lay down with the scale upon their chest. The scale would absorb their spirit, and priests would come later to collect the scales and wear them around their neck, calling upon them to wield the god-beast's power. The man who told me this said he had seen a scale priest cause a rotten foot to fall off before his very eyes with a spell. But he also said that the dead join Ataulajid's underground realm, where they serve with him for eternity. I had heard of followers of the Golparter using clay from his body to cast spells of growth and healing, but I'd never heard of an underground realm of the dead, so I was unsure what to make of this tale. But ultimately it did not matter, for after 2 years with Dashphadeans, I had never seen a scale priest, nor dead people in caves, and lost every chance to, when a Naphthean army of unforeseen vastness swept across the land. I was captured, and Ulu was killed. Chapter 5. Naphtea. I was unable to find Ulo's body. The Naphthean soldiers did not let me stop and mourn. A fire ignited in my belly on this day. Injured, furious, I was forced to march deeper into Naphtea with the other captives. I prayed to the Golparter through the mists for, at the very least, Ulu's body to be consumed by earth. Could the Golparter find him that way? Would that even occur in such a swampy land? I did not know. I do not remember much else of the march. They barely kept us alive, refusing to tend to our injuries or even give us food. Insects swarmed around open wounds as the swamps became more dense with strange trees. Those who died on the march were not worth keeping alive, they said. My spirit was breaking, and I thought of nothing else but taking the lives of those who held us captive. One time, it rained so heavily that we were trapped on a muddy island for 2 days. I stared into the grey as rain battered my weary body, thankful that the rain kept swarms of bugs at bay. And on the second morning, we were woken by someone yelling an alarm. I awoke in time to see a towering fin slicing through the water silently before disappearing into floodwaters. The rest of that day was uneventful. But after the flood subsided and we continued our venture, I saw something that struck my heart with awe and fear. Ashralen. Before I saw the city, I did not think anyone capable of building so large. Great stone temples loomed out of the fog first, like man-made mountains. Canals cut through the districts of buildings and surrounding islands of farmland. We crossed a huge bridge as drums sounded in the distance. I looked to the right at a nearby flock of waterbirds taking off, The slowest bird was snapped up in a pair of jaws that burst from the water. Nobody else seemed to care. I soon realized what the drumming was. The people of Ashralan were celebrating the return of their army, a victory against Dashphadea, and we slaves were paraded through the broad main street for people to throw mud and swamp slime at. The high priests up the stairs of the great temple were shouting something about a hero king, but I could not hear them over all the noise. It was all too much. I had been in Naphtea, in Ashralan, for a fraction of a day, and my head was already spinning, thumping. We were soon taken to a slave market and put indoors, and I did not see the light of the Astafall for many days. We were all kept in a long and quiet room with no windows. The only light came from small rocks affixed to the walls that glowed yellow on their own. We had beds and were fed and our wounds were mended, but otherwise weren't allowed to do anything. A guard stood watch at all times, and he would strike and take away anyone who complained. I spent my time laying down and remaining quiet, listening to the other slaves whisper things about the Naphtheans, calling them murderers, warmongers, thieves. I would whisper too, but my whispers were prayers to the Golparter that Ulor would find peace in death, prayers that somehow I would find my mana again, prayers that this fire in my belly would not one day set the rest of my body ablaze. One time I considered befriending a young man. He bore small, curving horns and slept beside me, but the opportunity never came, for once we were all mended and fed, we were moved to cages in the slave market. Herbs burned in bronze dishes and the smoke kept the bugs at bay, making the place livable, in a manner of speaking. But this was a different kind of slavery to the Kaarheans. The desert folk were harsh and forceful, but they did not treat us quite as inhumanely as the Naphtheans. To the people of Naphtea, we were animals, or worse, objects. One day, a hunched man with a cane and a grisly bodyguard came to my cage. I was pulled to the feet by my rip bindings. He looked me in the eye and asked if I would kneel to the hero king of Naphtea. The fire in my belly flared and I spat in the old man's face. With a grin, he smashed his cane into my shin. I crumpled and he cackled so clear, so loud, that it felt more real than anything else in the city. He purchased me on the spot, saying how much he was going to enjoy working me into the ground. I had met my new master. We left the slave market and headed across the city. The grisly bodyguard had my ropes from behind and I followed the hunched man. I followed him into an alley. There was nobody else here. From behind, a shawl was thrown over my shoulders that almost reached my knees. Confused, I followed him out of the alley and to the dock where a vessel was waiting. I had seen many small vessels in the rivers and canals of these swampy lands, but nothing of this size. It looked large enough to carry a house upon its deck. Once we had set sail, we headed down the river and toward the sea. I asked my new master, whose name was Daragan, where he was taking me. He produced a small knife and cut my ropes tossing them overboard, and looking back to me, he said, "To the greatest city in the world, Kaarheans," and he cackled clear and loud, more real than anything. Chapter 6. Taphtarea. Months of sickness on my part from sailing on open waters, we came at length to a river mouth and, sailing directly toward the Astafall, we came upon the great capital city of the kingdom of Taphtarea. Kaarheans. This megalopolis put Ashralan to shame. It was twice as large, with dozens of towering stone temples, and was built on islands across a huge, swampy river. Looking down into the waters, I could see flecks of light in the depths, and wondered what they were. We soon docked at one of Kaarheans' ports, and took a smaller boat through a series of canals until we came to Daradan's private manor. And this is where I remain to this day. I sit at present on his balcony, writing this very journal by the light of the Astafall, which has never felt so near, so loud, and so warm. I have so much to tell you about the city of Kaarheans and the Taphtarians, so I will try to be brief. Taphtarians also worship a hero king who descended from the one hero who allegedly created the Astafall an age ago. But, unlike the warmongering Naphtheans, the Taphtarians say their proof is in the gift of Virite, a glowing rock that flows down the Via River, the only river in the world to flow from the Astafall itself. While Naphtheans wage war and ruthlessly enslave, Kaarheans build and study. The city not only trades virite to people who live deeper in the dark lands, but perfumes and oils as well. The people of this land are noble and proud, and they transport the dead from far and wide, sending them up the Via River where the Astafall eventually takes them, reuniting their souls with the one hero. And, most impressively to me, the Taphtarians have tamed giant beasts of burden called Tereds, which bear a cluster of horns upon the snout and shaggy hair that sweeps the streets as they pass by with a steady and soft thudding. As for my well-being, Daradan's servants have fed me stuffed and roasted Kaarheans birds, Tashpa bacon, swamp spices, peas, lentils, seeds, nuts, and fermented tusfa every day of the 6 years I have been here. When I asked why he purchased me from the Naphtheans only to free me, he said that he could see I did not belong in a cage in Naphtea, that I was fated for greater things. Daradan himself is an enigma of this great city. He was a priest in his youth, but is now a scholar, and he studies the Astafall. He was removed from the temple when he offered his theory that the Astafall is actually from an ocean of Via which is draining into our world through a hole in the firmament which will one day run out. And when it does run out, not only will the land become dark once more, but one by one, every piece of virite will go out, and every fire will die, and it will be the end of all things. Unless those who live above the firmament can save us. At first I was skeptical of his theories, but after weeks and weeks of conversation, he eventually confided in me a great secret. Daradan took me to a secret room that I had never seen in my 6 years of wandering this manor. By the light of his virate staff, secret locked door after secret locked door, We eventually came to a deep basement room made of enormous stone blocks that made me wonder if this was an ancient tomb. As if to stir my imagination, he took me to a great stone pedestal in the middle of the room. Atop the pedestal was a black box, stone with a metallic sheen. Curious, I reached out to touch it, but Daradan told me not to, with a graveness I had never heard from him. He produced a small hook from his pocket and used that to open the box, and within the box was a stone. No, a shining fragment, an iridescent shard, a sliver of pearl shimmering with tenfold the brilliance of Daradan's staff, bearing a soft, pure, purple-white light instead of the yellow gold of Virite. This thing, this hypnotic sea of stars, this glittering crystalline splendor, it took hold of me, of my mind, of my being. I felt it reach out. I felt it ask something, tell something, whisper something so ancient, so profound, as though I was looking directly both at the start and end of all things. I do not know if I stared at it for a heartbeat or 1,000, but Daradan closed the lid, and the whiteness left the room. And he told me, this attracts divine entities, good or ill-intentioned, and he was going to take this to the Astafall. I admit it. He has won me over. He was right. Above the loftiest of clouds, a stony surface is clearly visible. There is another land up there, and we are seeing the underside of it. And if there is an underside, then there is a topside. And if there's an ocean of light, an ocean of fire up there, then there could be anything or anyone else. The one hero could even be there waiting to meet us. And if such a being is there, then they will certainly respond to this artifact that Daradan has come into possession of. This idea thrilled me, and I knew this would rob me of sleep for days, for weeks. But what didn't thrill me, and the reason that I am now writing all this down, is that after 6 long years of becoming educated and learning his secret dreams, Daradan and I are parting ways. Daradan is leaving Kaarheans, and he is not coming back without answers. He can only study so much from his manor here in the city, so he is sailing astwards, where the dead are sent, where the lands are torn asunder by the Astafall's power, where its song and light become unbearably loud and hot, and he is taking the pearlescent artifact with him. He has ways to protect himself and his associates, he says, but I cannot join him. The one hero is not my god. I have thought long and hard about what to do next. Daradan suggested I leave Taphtarea and travel to Peredea, further duskwards along the coast, where I could start a new life for myself. I had been both a mercenary and a scholar, trained in combat and cognition. You are unstoppable, Daradan told me as we parted ways. I thanked him for his generosity and friendship, and with no better dream to follow, I joined a merchant vessel as it sailed for Peredea, realizing that the fire in my belly from years ago was now a mere ember. Chapter 7. Peredea. The Peredeans are a simpler people than Taphtarians or Naphtheans, though they clearly share ancestry, for they too worship a hero king descended from the one hero who created the Astafall. After travelling across their realm, I came at length to a city called Rarun, which boasted a great bronze works and vast island fields of grain. Being further from the Astafall, the heat and light were less bold, more comparable to what we grew up with, although looking at it made me feel farther from home than I had ever felt. With my clothing, my money, my education, and my own bronze sword that Daradan had gifted me, I came to a marketplace in Rarun and began to think about my future. What would I become? Where should I start? Some traders speak of giants called Asyachis who come down from the mountains to raid villages. A retired soldier reminisces to me of wanting to go back to Naphtea and spend his last days working his own crop where life was simpler. A merchant says he discovered a faster way to sail to Coromite lands where he'll bring quality glass and porcelain back down and drown in money. A pair of adventurous youths say they were going to dig into a nearby mountain that was actually a palace built by ancient gods. An elderly man offers in response that being a Peredea pirate is an easier way to become filthy rich. But I do not seek riches, nor do I seek glory. I sought something else. I felt something in my pocket, and I discovered a length of red string. Had that been on me the entire time? No, that is impossible. It had been years, and I had changed clothing many times. And besides, the dead in these lands are not restless. The Astafall and Hero Kings see to that. I had no use for this red string. And yet, I could not bring myself to throw it away. So I went to the water's edge and found clay, and with my bare hands I sculpted a likeness of the Golparta. I wrapped the red string around it, and I spoke my prayers into it. And in this land so far from home, I prayed that the Golparta had found and welcomed the souls of my family, and he too would find my body when my time came. And I buried the figurine by the water. And then a young woman, noticing my ritual by the water's edge, approached me. I claimed that I was merely washing my hands, but she teased me for being a poor liar. I confessed the true depth of my actions, planting the first seed that blossomed into a bond of trust and affection, a blossom that smothered the lingering embers in my belly. 6 months later, she and I were wed. By the next year, we welcomed a baby girl, and soon after, a baby boy. Our Tesfa farm flourished, nourished by the same hands that once sculpted figures of devotion. Each night, as I taught our children to pray to the Golparta, I gave thanks, often with tears, for the winding path that brought me here, and for the family both lost and found. My dear wife Asya, my daughter Bea, and my son Ulo. Authored by Jerai of Galan, this account was completed in the 60th year of Tekmayan rule. My friends, that is the Chronicle of Jerai and Ulo. I thank you for attending tonight's event and hearing the first chronicle from the Astafall Chronicles. Shortly, for those interested, I will make final changes to the wiki and publicly launch it and post a link to it on the Discord. But if you're interested in future updates for this setting and my other personal projects of mine, feel free to stop by my personal Discord server, found in my Discord profile. The wiki's updates will mostly be entire chronicles posted at once, just like what you heard here, usually between 6 and 10 articles at a time. So, updates may be slow, but rest assured, the second chronicle is nearing completion. If you have any questions about this or anything at all, you are more than welcome to join us for the after party back in the rendezvous and talk about them, where we'll be going in a few minutes. I'll be in my library, Sheen will be at the bar, Ren will be there, and Nick will be also there, I think. My friends, this is all I have for you tonight. A short story, a new project, a strange new world. As I said, filled with mystery, danger, and wonder. If you like, we can take a group photo, and then after a couple minutes, we will be headed back to the rendezvous. Shall we, perhaps, gather in front of the screen so that group photos have this strange image to make everyone else wonder what we did tonight? I think that might be interesting. Photographers, please prepare. What shall we say on the count of 3?
I don't really know.
Orion's bell.
Red string.
Red string.
Oh, that works.
Orion's belt is red string, they say. Very well. My friends, on the count of 3, Orion's belt is red string. I see 1, 2, 3 photographers. Are you ready, photographers?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Orion's belt is red string.
Orion's belt is red string.
Thank you, my friends. This is... I think that one was my back. We will hang out for a couple of minutes while I do things, and then we'll drop a portal to the after party.
Look at that.
Well, that was amazing.
You're amazing.
My head looks